From Brooklyn girl to courtroom firebrand, when people hear the name Judge Judy, they think of a woman who could silence a courtroom with a single glare. They think of a cultural icon who, at her peak, drew more viewers than Oprah, commanded hundreds of millions of dollars, and turned small claims disputes into must-see television. But long before the fame, the empire, and the fortune, Judith Susan Sheindlin was just a little girl in Brooklyn with sharp eyes, a sharper mind, and a determination that the world wasn't ready for. Born on October 21, 1942 in Brooklyn, New York, Judy was the daughter of a dentist father she adored and a strong, practical mother. Her father, Murray Blum, was the light of her life. She often called him the greatest thing since sliced bread, a man whose quiet strength and gentle humor stayed with her forever. Her mother, Ethel, was the opposite, direct, pragmatic, no time for nonsense. From her, Judy learned the lesson that would shape her life. Words are cheap, actions tell the real story. Growing up in the post-war years, Judy wasn't handed opportunity. She had to fight for it. In school, she was bright, outspoken, and unafraid to challenge authority, traits that sometimes got her into trouble, but also marked her as someone destined for more than an ordinary life. By the time she entered American University in Washington, D.C. to study government, she already knew she wanted to pursue law. It wasn't a common path for women in the early 1960s, but Judy never cared about fitting in. After earning her undergraduate degree, she attended New York Law School, and in 1965, passed the New York bar at just 23 years old. That same year, she landed her first job as a corporate lawyer for a cosmetics company. To most young attorneys, it was a dream start, steady paycheck, prestige, security. But for Judy, it was suffocating. She hated the work. The corporate environment felt empty, the cases meaningless. She later admitted that she dreaded going into the office and that the career she thought she wanted was already crushing her spirit. 2 years later, in 1967, she did something shocking. She quit. She walked away from the stability of corporate law to stay home with her children, Jamie and Adam, whom she had with her first husband, attorney Ronald Levy. For 5 years, she tried to convince herself that motherhood was enough, but something inside her was restless. The law still called to her. She loved her children, but she needed more than diapers and dinner tables. She needed to use her mind, her instincts, her fire. In 1972, fate intervened. A friend told her about an opening in the New York family court system for a prosecutor. Judy jumped at the chance. And the moment she stepped into family court, everything clicked. This was not the sterile world of corporate contracts. This was raw, messy, and real. Abuse cases, custody disputes, neglect. Family court was brutal, the kind of work that broke most people. But Judy thrived. She had no patience for lies or excuses. She cut straight to the truth, delivering swift rulings with an iron will. Her reputation grew quickly. Lawyers feared trying to bluff her. Parents on the stand knew better than to waste her time. She was relentless, unfiltered, and absolutely committed to protecting children and families. By 1982, her work caught the attention of then-Mayor Ed Koch, who appointed her to the criminal court of the city of New York. 4 years later, she was promoted again, this time to supervising judge of Manhattan's family court, one of the most demanding positions in the system. In her courtroom, Judy developed the style that would later make her famous. She was sharp, direct, sometimes harsh, but always efficient. Cases that might drag on for weeks in other courtrooms were wrapped up quickly under her watch. She demanded honesty and accountability. If you lied, she'd know in an instant. If you wasted her time, you'd regret it. She once said, "I can't stand stupid, and I can't stand liars. Don't tell me stories. Give me facts." Her approach wasn't universally loved. Some accused her of being too tough, too cold, but others admired her ability to cut through chaos and find the truth. To those who worked alongside her, Judy Sheindlin was a force of nature, equal parts terrifying and inspiring. Then came the turning point. In 1993, a journalist from the Los Angeles Times wrote a feature on this firecracker judge shaking up New York's family court system. The piece caught the eye of producers at 60 Minutes, who invited Judy to appear on the program. The segment was electrifying. America was mesmerized by this blunt, no-nonsense judge who didn't mince words. She wasn't polished for TV, she wasn't rehearsed, she was raw, real, and unforgettable. Television executives saw what viewers saw, a star. In 1996, they approached Judy with an idea. What if she presided over real small claims cases on national television? At first, it sounded absurd. A court show featuring a real judge. Would anyone watch? On September 16, 1996, the world got its answer. The debut of Judge Judy changed television forever. Within weeks, the show was drawing millions of viewers. Within months, it was a cultural phenomenon. Judy's glare, her cutting remarks, her insistence on accountability, they became part of American culture. Viewers couldn't get enough. They taped episodes, repeated her catchphrases, and tuned in religiously. By the late 1990s, Judy wasn't just a judge, she was a superstar. At its peak, Judge Judy drew between 9 and 10 million viewers a day, sometimes even surpassing Oprah in the ratings. That level of dominance was unheard of for a daytime show. Suddenly, Judy was everywhere, parodied on Saturday Night Live, quoted in newspapers, referenced in sitcoms. She had crossed from television star to cultural icon. The money followed. By 2005, Judy was making $25 million a year. By 2008, $45 million. And by 2017, at the height of her career, she earned $147 million in a single year, making her the highest paid person in all of television, not just daytime, but across every genre. She worked just 52 days a year, filming multiple cases per day, which meant she was making nearly $900,000 for each day on set. No one in television history had ever pulled off a deal like that. But while the world celebrated her iron will, behind the scenes, Judy was already paying the price. Her relentless pursuit of success left little room for balance. Her family life, already strained by years of absence, began to crack. And though she ruled daytime TV with absolute authority, the cost of that empire would eventually come due. Peak fame, hidden cracks, and scandals. By the early 2000s, Judge Judy wasn't just a TV show, it was a machine. At its peak, the program was drawing almost 10 million viewers a day, making it one of the most watched shows in syndication. For 25 years, Judith Sheindlin commanded the airwaves with her glare, her sharp wit, and her refusal to tolerate excuses. She became part of the cultural fabric, quoted in living rooms, classrooms, even in political debates. People didn't just watch her, they believed in her. Financially, she was untouchable. By 2017, she earned $147 million in a single year, the highest salary in television. She filmed for just 52 days annually, banking nearly $900,000 for every day she worked. No other judge, no other host, no other daytime star had ever pulled off such an extraordinary deal. Her courtroom bench wasn't just a set, it was a throne. But while her empire grew, the hidden costs of that empire began to show. Fame and fortune can't insulate anyone from the strain of real life. And behind the confident image of the woman who could silence a courtroom with one look, cracks were forming. Cracks in her family life, her reputation, and the empire itself. The price of relentless success. Judy had always been open about her ambition. She worked tirelessly, with an intensity that inspired awe in some and fear in others. But her family bore the weight of that ambition. Her 5 children, Jamie, Adam, Gregory, Jonathan, and Nicole, grew up largely without her at home. While Judy filmed her show, built her empire, and cultivated her public image, the day-to-day moments of motherhood slipped away. School plays, dinners around the table, even birthdays. She missed more of them than she attended. Years later, Judy herself admitted that her greatest regret was not being there enough for her children. She carried that guilt like a shadow, always present, no matter how brightly the spotlight shone on her career. Friends say she often confessed that she wondered if she had done enough, even when she knew the answer was no. Her marriage, too, faced challenges. She and Judy Sheindlin, her second husband, had already divorced once before remarrying in 1991. Their love endured, but even Jerry sometimes struggled with Judy's relentless pace. The loss of her father in 1990 nearly broke her, and Jerry didn't know how to respond to her grief. The cracks in their relationship showed, even if they stayed together. For Judy, work became the way she coped. With grief, with stress, with guilt. The more she threw herself into her career, the less she had to face the emptiness of what she'd sacrificed at home. But the cost was undeniable. The higher she climbed, the more distance grew between her and the relationships that mattered most. The mini-stroke scare. In 2011, Judy had a terrifying wake-up call. During a live taping, she suddenly began slurring her words. Her face went blank. The quick-witted, sharp-tongued woman America knew so well seemed to vanish before the cameras. Production halted. Paramedics rushed in. She was taken to the hospital where doctors diagnosed a transient ischemic attack, often called a mini-stroke. Though she recovered quickly, the scare forced Judy to confront her own mortality. She began exercising daily, changed her diet, and started medication to prevent future incidents. But the experience didn't slow her down. If anything, it made her push harder, as though she was trying to outrun time itself. Cracks in the empire. For years, Judge Judy was considered untouchable, but no empire lasts forever. The first signs of trouble came not from competitors or ratings, but from within her own production team. Former staff members began speaking out about a toxic workplace environment. Much of the criticism centered on longtime executive producer Randy Douthat. Allegations surfaced of harassment, verbal abuse, and discrimination behind the scenes. Some staff claimed that racial bias influenced which litigants were selected, with instructions to avoid booking too many black participants in a single episode. One producer, Courtney Bullock, filed a lawsuit, claiming she had been harassed and pushed out of her job after complaining. Other employees supported her story, painting a disturbing picture of the workplace culture. The natural question followed: what did Judy know? She claimed she was unaware of any misconduct, defended her team publicly, and continued supporting Douthat. But critics argued that as the face of the show, she bore responsibility, not just for what happened in front of the cameras, but behind them as well. For someone who built a career on accountability, her defense rang hollow to many. The herpes case and questionable rulings. The controversies didn't stop with production. They extended into the courtroom itself. One case, later dubbed the herpes case, became infamous online. Judy awarded $5,000 to a woman who claimed her ex-boyfriend knowingly infected her with herpes. Her ruling was swift and final, classic Judge Judy style, but soon after, the man presented medical records proving he didn't have herpes at all. The ruling had been wrong, publicly, humiliatingly wrong. Critics seized on the mistake, calling it proof that Judy's snap judgments sometimes relied more on instinct and emotion than on solid evidence. For a show built on the promise of real justice, it was a damning revelation, and it raised an uncomfortable question: how many other rulings had been just as careless? Fans began noticing things they hadn't before. Litigants who struggled to express themselves were cut off mid-sentence. People who spoke broken English, or those without formal education, were often mocked or dismissed. What once seemed like tough love now looked like cruelty. Social media erupted with accusations of classism. The woman who built her career as the voice of common sense was now accused of humiliating the vulnerable for entertainment. The betrayal of Petrie Hawkins Byrd, perhaps the most personal controversy, came in 2021 when Judy launched her new show, Judy Justice, on Amazon's Freevee. Missing from the set was Petrie Hawkins Byrd, known simply as Byrd, her loyal bailiff of over 20 years. For fans, Byrd wasn't just a supporting player, he was part of the magic. His calm demeanor balanced Judy's fiery presence, and viewers loved the chemistry between them. His absence was glaring, and when the truth came out, fans were furious. Byrd revealed that he had never even been consulted about Judy Justice. He wasn't asked to audition, wasn't given a heads up. He found out he had been replaced the same way the audience did, by watching someone else in his chair. He admitted he felt blindsided and hurt. He had stood beside Judy for decades, and now he was discarded without so much as a conversation. Judy's explanation that the show needed a younger face to appeal to new audiences didn't sit well with fans. Instead, it fueled accusations of nepotism, especially since she had brought her granddaughter, Sarah Rose, onto the show as a law clerk. For many longtime viewers, it felt like a betrayal. The woman who preached loyalty had failed to show it to the person who had been most loyal to her. Lawsuits and battles with CBS, The cracks widened further with her messy split from CBS. After 25 years, the network chose not to continue Judge Judy with new episodes. Instead, they spent $99 million to secure rights to reruns, ensuring the show would still air but ending fresh production. To Judy, the move was an insult. It wasn't just about business, it was about respect. She accused CBS of disrespecting her creation, sidelining Hot Bench, another courtroom show she created, and mishandling her empire. Adding to the drama, Rebel Entertainment Partners, the company that originally helped launch Judge Judy, sued CBS and Judy for profit sharing. They claimed they had been cut out of millions, especially when spin-offs were developed. The legal battles dragged on for years, drawing headlines and painting an unflattering picture of a woman who had once seemed invincible. A shifting public perception. Through all of this, something fundamental changed. For decades, Judy had been seen as the ultimate truth teller, the voice of reason, the no-nonsense judge who cut through the lies. But now, critics accused her of hypocrisy, of protecting problematic producers, of humiliating the poor, of discarding loyal colleagues. Her empire was still lucrative, but the image was tarnished. She had built her career on accountability, but when the cracks appeared, she seemed unwilling to hold herself to the same standard. And perhaps most painfully of all, she knew it. Judy once told a friend that the thing she feared most was irrelevance. Not poverty, not illness, not even death, but fading from the spotlight. As the controversies piled up and streaming numbers fell short of her broadcast heyday, that fear began to creep closer. From the outside, Judy Sheindlin was still the queen of court television. She still commanded millions. She still lived in sprawling mansions and had a fortune estimated at over $400 million. But behind the glare, behind the empire, the woman who built everything was beginning to face the one thing she could never cross-examine, never overrule, never silence: the cost of her own choices. Judy Justice, regrets, and the quiet reality of a legend. When Judge Judy ended in 2021 after 25 seasons, it wasn't just the conclusion of a television program. It was the end of an era. For a quarter of a century, Judith Sheindlin had been the queen of daytime television, a woman whose voice and glare commanded more respect than presidents, CEOs, and even real judges in actual courtrooms. But even for someone as relentless as Judy, time had caught up. CBS's decision to retire the show and invest instead in reruns left her furious. She felt disrespected, sidelined, as if the empire she had built with her own hands was being cheapened. Judy had never tolerated being underestimated, and she wasn't about to start now. At 78, instead of retiring, she pivoted. She took her talents to streaming, launching Judy Justice on Amazon's Freevee. The show looked familiar: real litigants, real cases, Judy presiding with her trademark sharpness. But something was different. Gone was the familiar CBS courtroom. Gone was the decades-old chemistry with Petrie Hawkins Bird, her longtime bailiff. In his place stood new faces, including Judy's own granddaughter, Sarah Rose, serving as a law clerk. For some viewers, it felt like a passing of the torch. For others, it felt like nepotism, a desperate attempt to keep her legacy alive by forcing family into the spotlight. The shrinking reach, Judy Justice was respectable for a streaming series. It even earned Judy another daytime Emmy, making her the only TV judge to win for 2 separate programs. But the reach was smaller. In her glory days, Judy commanded 9 to 10 million viewers daily. On streaming, the audience was a fraction of that. For younger generations, Judy wasn't the queen of court television. She was a meme, a symbol of old-school toughness passed around in viral clips, stripped of context. She tried once more in 2025 with Justice on Trial, a docuseries on Prime Video that re-examined historic legal cases like the Menendez brothers and the Scopes monkey trial. The show was ambitious, blending dramatized reenactments with analysis, and even featuring Judy in scripted scenes. But it too flew under the radar. There were no billboards, no cultural buzz. The world had moved on, and for the first time, Judy Sheindlin felt what she had always feared most: irrelevance. Health, age, and relentless work. At 82, Judy remains sharp, but her body has slowed. The mini stroke in 2011 was the first warning sign.
Judge Judy told us that her whole family never went to the doctor until her mother became ill, and that changed how she faces health concerns. And it's her story of suffering what is believed to have been a transient ischemic attack, or commonly known as a mini-stroke.
Friends and family quietly admit that she battles fatigue and requires regular medical checkups. She has made changes, daily workouts, stricter diet, preventative medication, but the energy that once carried her through long taping days isn't the same. Still, she refuses to stop. Even now, she reviews case files, participates in production meetings, and oversees new projects. It's as if she believes that the moment she stops working, everything she built will disappear. Or perhaps it's simpler. Work has become her identity. Without it, who would she be? Judy has admitted in rare interviews that slowing down terrifies her. For decades, her entire worth has been measured in her sharpness, her productivity, her relevance. To lose that feels like death itself. The family distanced Judy and her husband Judy Sheindlin remain together after more than 40 years, but their lives have become quieter, more separate. Jerry, now in his late 80s, prefers privacy and rest. Judy, ever restless, still fills her calendar with work. They share a home, a history, and a bond, but they also inhabit different worlds. They are together, but sometimes alone in their routines. Her 5 children, Jamie, Adam, Gregory, Jonathan, and Nicole, are grown with families of their own. They are lawyers, professionals, people with their own lives. Family gatherings happen, but they are rare. The years of absence, the missed birthdays, and school plays created a distance that money cannot repair. Judy admits her greatest regret is not being there enough for her children. Even bringing Sarah Rose into Judy Justice seemed like an attempt to reclaim something she had lost. A way to finally leave a mark on the next generation. But regret lingers. Behind her iron will is a woman who knows what she gave up and lives with the ache of what she can never get back. Scandals that wouldn't fade. Even in her later years, controversies continued to shadow her. Her decision to leave Bird out of Judy Justice still angers loyal fans who saw it as a betrayal. The lawsuits with Rebel Entertainment Partners over profits from Judge Judy and Hot Bench dragged her reputation into courtrooms of a different kind. And the workplace harassment allegations against her longtime producer Randy Douthat, though never directly tied to her, raised questions about how much she knew and what responsibility she bore. For someone who built a career on accountability, critics argued she had failed to apply that same standard to herself. Judy brushed it off publicly, but privately, friends say it stung. She hated being seen as hypocritical. For decades, she was America's truth teller, the woman who said what everyone else was too afraid to say. Now, some saw her as part of the very system she once cut through with such precision. Philanthropy, and legacy. Despite the controversies, Judy has tried to use her wealth for good. With a net worth estimated at $440 million, she has funded educational programs, scholarships, and legal initiatives. She has spoken often about wanting young people, especially women, to have the same opportunities she fought for in a time when female lawyers were dismissed and belittled. Philanthropy has given her purpose, but it has also highlighted the contradictions of her life. She gave millions to strangers while sometimes struggling to give time to her own family. She created opportunities for students while knowing she missed opportunities with her own children. The irony is not lost on her, nor on those closest to her. The silence of the mansions. Today, Judy lives primarily in Florida, though she owns multiple homes, including estates in Beverly Hills and Connecticut. They are lavish, sprawling properties filled with art, furniture, and every luxury imaginable. Yet those who know her say the homes often feel empty. Her children are grown, her grandchildren busy with their own lives. The same walls that once echoed with ambition now echo with silence. It is the paradox of success. Judy won everything she fought for: money, fame, respect, power. But in winning, she lost something too: the small, quiet moments that build a life. A living paradox. At 82, Judith Sheindlin is both an inspiration and a cautionary tale. She proved that a woman could dominate a male-driven industry, become the highest-paid personality in television, and build an empire on her own terms. She shattered barriers, changed television, and became an icon of authority and no-nonsense truth. But she also proved something darker, that success measured only in money and fame comes with costs that no fortune can repair. She lives with regret for the years lost with her children, for the relationships strained by her relentless pursuit of greatness. She is proud of her legacy, but haunted by the question of whether it was worth the sacrifices. The final gavel. What remains is a paradox as sharp as Judy herself. She is both celebrated and criticized, both wealthy and lonely, both powerful and vulnerable. She sits in mansions filled with memories she never made, surrounded by the silence of time that cannot be bought back. And yet, even now, she refuses to fade quietly. She still works, still fights, still refuses to surrender to irrelevance. That, perhaps, is the truest reflection of Judge Judy. She may regret, she may ache, but she will never give in. Judith Sheindlin will always be remembered not just as the judge who ruled television, but as the woman who proved that power comes with a price, and that every gavel strike echoes long after the courtroom has emptied.